And joining us in the studio this morning is Father Jose Quilongquilong. He is the rector of the Loyola House of Studies. Father Jose will tell us more about the election of the Pope, Pope Francis I, and other matters. Father, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
How do you feel? Happy as we are?
Well, I joined the church of the joy of welcoming a new Pope, because a Pope is a symbol of unity and of communion. And it was seen in the square, the joyful acclamation of the people. And that's how I felt when I finally saw the new Pope. And of course, a big surprise because he's a Jesuit, and I belong to the Jesuit order.
Correct. And how does that matter?
Well, in the history of the Jesuits, this is the first. And in our spirituality as Jesuits, we kind of prefer to be servants, kind of to follow the Pope. In fact, we have a special obedience to the Pope.
Okay.
It's our fourth vow as Jesuits. Now, having a Pope as the supreme leader now of the Church gives a special dimension now to this relationship.
How will this Pope lead 1.2 billion Roman Catholics?
Well, when he was cardinal or Archbishop of Argentina, he was known for three characteristics. First is pastoral service. He was bishop since 1992, and he was known for great care, for the Archdiocese of Argentina. And then, secondly, his solidarity with the various sectors of Argentina, especially the poor. He was known as someone who spoke against excesses of globalization, which has an effect on poverty. So he's very much close to the poor. And then thirdly, his deep spirituality, a very prayerful man. And it was very kind of symbolic that before he gave the blessing to the people, he bowed before the crowds and asked the crowds to pray for him.
For him and for Pope Benedict.
And for Pope Benedict. And that gesture of really journeying with the people and also praying, that really underlines the deep spirituality of the new Pope.
We had an interview in the studio a few weeks back with another priest, and we were talking about the possibility of electing an administrator instead of a spiritual leader of the Roman Catholic Church. And our guest was saying that it was good on one hand to have an administrator because of the complex bureaucracy of the Vatican and the structure of the Roman Catholic Church. But now that we have a spiritual leader, do you think that we have the right kind of Pope?
Well, as bishop, he has to fulfill three functions. First is to sanctify as Bishop of Rome, so he celebrates the liturgy and he proclaims the gospel of Christ. That is his primary function as a pastor, so to sanctify. And then second is to teach. And Pope Benedict was known for his teaching messages. He was known as a teaching Pope. And then thirdly, to govern. And that's the point you mentioned, that at this time we need someone who can really govern the church. But these three functions are expected of a bishop and of a pope. He's also called the Bishop of Rome. And as far as I know, in Argentina, he was a good administrator.
So we have we kind of have an all-in-one Pope.
Yes, and these three functions are expected of a bishop, because as head of a diocese, he has to kind of fulfill these responsibilities. And what the governance is only one of the aspects.
How is this going to impact Roman Catholics here in our country?
Well, as Pope, in a way, we are in communion with the whole Church. In fact, somebody mentioned that the qualities of the new Pope somehow relate with the qualities they experienced with the Cardinal of Manila. You might have heard that Cardinal Tagle was also one of the popular candidates.
Top 10.
Because Cardinal Tagle was known for his simplicity, for his humility. And this Pope said in one of his comments that the Church should not be self-referential. So in a way, his simplicity and his humility would appeal very much to developing countries like the Philippines.
Do you think that we need a resurgence of faith Father?
Yes, and again, coming from Latin America, no, it's a developing country. As Archbishop of Argentina, he also emphasized the need for evangelization, the renewal of the faith. And it's very significant that he used the name Francis because it's named after Saint Francis of
Of
Assisi.
Assisi.
When Cardinal Ratzinger was asked what name he wants to be called, Ratzinger said Benedict in honor of Saint Benedict, who founded Western monasticism, patron of Europe, and also Benedict the 15th, no, the Pope who tried to prevent World War I, who was known for his work for peace. Now, as Saint Francis, Saint Francis, he died in 1226, and this saint was known for reform. And in fact, there was this vision of Saint Francis of Assisi. He heard a voice from the crucifix telling him, Francis, repair my church. So by choosing that name, the first pope to choose a name Francis is somehow to underline that value of reform, of leading the church in simplicity and poverty, which are values important for an evangelization, because we cannot be effective witnesses if we are not promoting these values of poverty and simplicity, which are values of the gospel.
Which leads me to my next question. I was going to ask, he's the 266th
Yes.
in a straight line, which goes back to St. Peter.
Saint Peter, yes.
How has the church evolved since St. Peter?
Well, we are now in a different world. In fact, this conclave is very different from the previous conclaves because this conclave happened in what we call the social media network.
Yes.
Twitter, Facebook, and you can see this in terms of immediate interaction with various people. People were free to give opinions,
Yes.
and also a greater access to the person of the Pope. So in a way, it's a very challenging situation of the church. It calls for greater responsibility and greater connection with what we call postmodern culture.
Greater clarity of message,
Yes,
I presume,
yes,
because
yes.
of the ease of communication.
Yes, so
on all
right
levels.
now, yeah, because like in the previous conclave, the social media network was not as kind of, widespread as now, like Twitter and Facebook. Now with this Pope, there's a greater need for immediate connection and communication with the people. And, it can be a very powerful tool in a way to promote the gospel and the message of the church.
When you talk about reform, Father, what exactly do you mean? Top three things that
Well,
come to your mind.
The church, we have this phrase in Latin, no, semper reformanda, that the church always needs reform. And, that was seen in the history of the church. Now, in the context of Saint Francis of Assisi, he came in the church at a period when the church was marked by avarice and and abuses. It was during the time of Saint Francis of Assisi, and then later on with the rise of Protestantism, and then came Saint Ignatius of Loyola, no, the saint who again renewed the Catholic faith. So in a way, popes also kind of follow, no, the different church developments and so on. So in terms of reform, we have what we call internal reform of the church. No, in terms of our lifestyle, our ministry, and our formation. No? This is the intra, no, or called that internal reform of the church. In terms of the life of the church.
Yes.
We also have what we call external reform. Maybe we need to review our modes of evangelization, our modes of relating with various structures outside the church, maybe greater dialogue now because of the changing context. In fact, this was highlighted in the last synod of bishops, underlined by Cardinal Tagle, that in the present context, the church needs to listen more. So it calls for a more listening church because of so many voices around that the church has to be in a stance of greater dialogue. So reform would take these various dimensions.
He's going to visit with Pope Benedict XVI. So after 600 years, we're going to have two popes
Yes.
succeeding, one pope succeeding the other,
Yes.
face to face, which hasn't happened in six
Yeah,
centuries.
yeah.
What's the next in the process, Father?
Well, it's a very powerful, in a way, powerful image to see a Pope Emeritus who resigned, and then we have a new Pope, and it's very interesting because uh, Pope Benedict he mentioned when he met the cardinals that I will uh, give my full obedience to the new Pope. So it's again an act of humility. No? The resignation itself was an act of humility, but to express his total obedience to the new Pope is to recognize that he takes the secondary role now. That he's more of a background. In fact, after this he will return to the Vatican, but he will stay in a monastery away from the what we call centers of power in the church. So he continues that mode of humility, and I'm sure they know each other, and I'm sure the Pope will really benefit from also the advice of Pope Benedict XVI. Pope Benedict XVI left a treasure of what we call perspectives of the church, from his writings and messages, which I think the new Pope will continue.
Father, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for coming over and sharing your experiences and your knowledge with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.